Welcome. In this video, we are going to cover some of the essential operations for Microsoft Excel when you are analyzing data. We will start with saving a document that has been shared with you in view-only mode. We will then work on formatting data as a table, then move to averages, conditional formatting, and finish up with some if statements. For those of you that are taking the Office 365 Level 2 course, you will need to navigate to Canvas and locate the Microsoft Excel module and assignment. About 2/3 of the way down the page, you will see the blue hyperlink. If you double click that, it will open a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that I have shared with you. Once the sheet opens, you will see something that looks like this, and you will likely have the bar here that says Read Only. That is because I have shared the spreadsheet in View Only mode so that anyone with the link can view, but they cannot edit. Obviously, you're going to need to be able to edit this spreadsheet in order to complete the assignment that we're going to go through, so you're going to want to follow the procedure for making sure that this Excel spreadsheet ends up in your Microsoft OneDrive. This is also a procedure you should be familiar with in case you share a sheet with students and they need to get into their Microsoft OneDrive. In order to complete that operation, we're going to start with the download option, and we're going to download your file. It will take just a couple of seconds to download, and it will appear in the downloads bar right here. I'm going to click the up arrow. I have two options. I could go ahead and open this file, or I could show it in the folder. Ultimately, we are going to open the file, but I'm going to choose show in folder because I want to show you where downloads are saved, as that is something that may pop up when students have a question for you. When I choose to open it, it takes me to my downloads folder, which is located on my computer. And you can see I actually already have two copies of this document because I've practiced twice. So I have the Excel example for Office 365 2 with the parentheses and the number 2 after that. So I'm going to go ahead and double click that to open it. But again, I just want to show you that is saved on the hard drive of your computer in the downloads folder. And that tells you that right here is where it's saved. But we want to move it out of there and we want to move it into our Microsoft OneDrive. Once the file from your downloads folder opens, you will likely again have this bar, except for this time it will say enable editing. You're going to enable editing, which allows you to obviously edit the document, and from there you are going to go to file and you are going to go to save as, and we're going to save a copy of this document so that it is saved on your Microsoft OneDrive. So I'm going to double click my Microsoft OneDrive. Once OneDrive has loaded, I'm going to create a new folder for this course, and you may not need to create a new folder all the time, but I think it's important to walk through these steps. So I'm just going to call this Office 365 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and double click that to open it. And now I can save the file here. So the file name that I have, Excel example for Office 365 2, is good. I am going to go ahead and remove that parentheses 2 after my file name. And then I'm going to hit save. So once I have hit save and my document has successfully saved, it is saved on the Microsoft OneDrive location of my computer as well as the online Microsoft OneDrive. So it is backed up. I don't have to worry about losing any information or data. If the computer is broken, something happens to the computer, my data is backed up. If it's on the downloads folder where we started, that will not be the case. So that will be an operation you won't have to go through a lot, but if you share a file with a student or students and you have it as view only, you will need to guide them through that process. So I think it's important to understand that process. Once the file has been saved and you have a chance to open the file, you can see that there are 10 students and they have 5 quiz scores each. These are randomly generated students with 5 randomly generated quiz scores. There's also the average and whether each student is above or below the average on the far right side of the data table. And this is a data table, and many times when someone working with Word has a data table, they will go to great lengths to format that by putting in different colors of rows and putting a total at the bottom and those sort of things, and that's great, and that's a perfectly fine way to complete the operation of making your data table look a little more professional. However, there is a little bit easier way. If I click on the Home tab, I have the ability to format data as a table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything from cell A1 through cell H11, and I'm going to click the Home tab, and then I'm going to choose Format as Table. And I have a number of options and color schemes here that I can choose from, and you can see that a number of them have header rows, and you can choose what you want to look like. I'm just going to choose this basic blue option right here. And it's asking me what do I want to format as a table, and I'm choosing A1 through H11. The dollar sign's making an absolute reference, meaning it can't change. So I'm going to leave that as it is, and then I'm going to select that my data definitely has headers, and I'm going to click OK. And in addition to giving this a very nice appearance as a data table, it also provides several options so that when I click on the table anywhere, I have the Table Tools option right here, and I can quickly change the design, I can rename the table, I can get into some greater analysis tools such as pivot tables. that are beyond the scope of what we're doing right now, but it will also have some added benefits that I will show you in just a couple of minutes. So this allows you to create something that looks nice, also allows you to quickly change and edit what you have there, and allows you to provide a little bit deeper analysis should you choose to go in that direction. Once you have your data formatted as a table, you are ready to begin your analysis. In this case, the first piece that we want to determine for each student is their average. And certainly you could calculate the average for every student by adding those up on a calculator and dividing by 5, and that would give you the average just the same as what we're going to do right now. However, it is much more time consuming. In a small set of data like this, the time difference is not always as evident, but when you get a large set of data, it becomes much more evident how efficient a spreadsheet is. So we're going to find the average of every student. So we're going to want to use the AutoSum function, and the AutoSum function can be found under the Home tab. Those of you that took the G Suite 1 course at Greencastle Community Schools are aware of the AutoSum feature. We use that in the G Suite course when we talk about G Sheets, Google Sheets rather. So for the AutoSum, I'm going to use the average command, and you will quickly see the benefit of why we formatted this as a table. So I'm going to select the average, and Excel already knows I want the average of B2 through F2, so I want those 5 quiz scores. I'm going to hit enter, and as soon as I hit enter, it automatically calculates the average for every student. I don't even need to drag the formula down. I could certainly do that by hitting the box right here and by dragging down, left clicking and dragging down, but by formatting as a table I don't need to do that because it knows that I want the average for every student in that particular column, which in this case is G. The problem you will see though is that the numbers that have been generated are a much smaller font and not aligned the way everything else in the table is. But we can fix that very easily by clicking on one of the cells. Once you have found the cell that you like, click the Format Painter option, and then we're just going to paint that format onto the rest of the cells that we want to assume the attributes of the cell we just selected. So we're going to choose all of those cells, and you can now see that all of those cells have the correct formatting so that they are centered and they have the larger font. Once you have calculated the average for every student by using the AutoSum command, we're going to use conditional formatting to see which students have an average that is above passing and which have an average that is below passing. And we can do that very simply with a tool called Conditional Formatting. I'm going to highlight all of column G in which I have data, and then I'm going to click on the Home button, and I am going to choose Conditional Formatting, and then I'm going to choose New Rule. I'm just barely scraping the surface here of what conditional formatting can do, and if this is something you feel can be interesting, this might be something you work on during your free work time if you're in the course, or you can feel free to explore and ask me questions if you have those beyond the course. So I'm going to choose the option Format Only Cells That Contain, and in this case I want the cell value to be below or equal to, so less than or equal to, the number 70, because we're going to assume that 70 is passing, so we're actually going to make this 69.99. So any one that is less than or equal to 69.99 is going to have their cell formatted in a special way based on the rules that we have just applied. And we choose what that format is, so I'm going to choose Format. If I just wanted to have the background color set to yellow, I could do that. I can certainly choose any type of background that I want. If I want the font to be unique or I want the border to be unique, I can change any of those options. I'm going to add a pattern style to mine, just a large array of dots, and then I'm also going to have it be red, and I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to click OK right here, and you can see now all the students who are at 69.9 are below for their average, which means their average quiz score is failing, have been highlighted in red. So I can very quickly identify those without having to go back and do any manual calculations for each student. Last but not least, we are going to use an if statement to show the students that are above or below average. Now, a savvy Excel user will know that you can actually complete this operation with conditional formatting, but I want to explore the use of if statements, and I thought this was a good way to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is calculate an average of the averages so we know the overall average for the class. So in order to do that, I'm going to go in cell G12, I'm going to choose the Home tab, and I'm going to choose the AutoSum, and I'm going to get the average of everything that is in that column, and I can see the average is 71.5. Now I'm going to use an if statement to determine if each student is above or below the average. If I hit the equal sign, that tells Excel that I want to write a formula. So I'm going to write equals if, and it starts to pop up and it tells me what an if statement is, and if I have questions on that, I can click the option to explore that. In this case, I'm going to put the parentheses, so it will tell you what the formula should be input as once you put the parentheses. So it's telling me logical test and then value if true, value if false. So the logical test is if cell G2, so I'm going to type G2, is greater than or equal to, so I'm going to choose the greater than or equal to sign, cell G12, and I want that to be a universal reference. So I'm going to type in G with a $sign and 12 with a $sign. That makes it so that the cell will not move. If I don't choose that, what's going to happen is when I drag the formula down, it's going to change to cell G13, and then it's going to mess up all of the values after that in my table. So if G2 is greater than or equal to G12, I want the computer to return the value above, and I have to put that in quotation marks. And notice how it gets dark as I go along with my formula here. And at any time I can click this option and it will take me to the Excel help area, and I can learn more about my formula. So now what is the value if it is false? I have to put quotation marks, and I'm going to put below and quotation marks, and I always have to end a formula with the right parentheses. And I'm going to hit enter, and notice that it does the same thing it did when I calculated the average. So now it's telling me who is above or below the average of everyone in the class. So if the average for the class is 71.5, then it's telling me that William is above average, and it also points out possible inconsistencies in the data. For example, David had an average that was above passing, but his score is below the overall average of the course. So this allows for a little bit greater level of data analysis. And again, if I want this font to be larger and I want it to be centered, I simply choose the cell that I want to mimic. I go to Home, I go to Format Painter, and then I can select all of the cells that I want to have be centered and have a larger font. Those are some basic operations that are associated with Excel and data analysis. Again, just barely scratching the surface of what Excel can do. But if this interests you, feel free to take this and run, ask questions, and again, we'll be back for more in Office 365 Level 3 in the following semester.